Hello and welcome. Today I wanted to shoot a video that people have been asking about for a while, featuring curved hilt sabers. Now there's a lot of speculation about curved hilt sabers. They look neat, they look different, some people love them, some people hate them. But I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about curved hilt sabers, where you see them in Star Wars universe and in the lightsaber market, how they are designed, the different types of curved hilt sabers that are out there, and what you might, or what sort of advantages or disadvantages you might find if you want to use a curved hilt saber for either choreography or dueling or just swinging it around. So let's start off with where you find them in the Star Wars universe. Curved hilt sabers have been kicking around in the Star Wars universe for about 20 years now, as of the shooting of this video. They came out of the prequel trilogy. The first time that I ever saw a curved hilt saber was Christopher Lee's character, Count Dooku, who featured a saber that has what I refer to as a double curve, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But since then, you've seen them around in Clone Wars, which followed the prequel trilogy. You saw them there with Asajj Ventress, who has curved hilt sabers that actually fit together for an S-staff at one point. You had them with Ahsoka Tano later down the road. Her original sabers were straight, but she traded them in for curved hilt ones around about Rebels time. And then you saw them also in the comic book series and several other places since then. In the comic book series, Vader's first lightsaber hilt that he stole from a Jedi ended up being a curved hilt saber. So they've been around and you see them quite a bit, but when Dooku busted out that curved hilt saber, it was something altogether unique. So let me talk about the Dooku saber a little bit, and then we'll talk about different types of curved hilt sabers. The Dooku saber, according to the great source that is Wikipedia, was based by the art department off of several different types of historical swords. The one that they say that they got the curve from is a barong, which is a Filipino weapon that features a curve just at the pommel that's primarily used to retain grip. Now, the curved hilt saber that Dooku ends up using is very dissimilar from a barong. The barong curve is a lot more like this Bendu Armory one. It's just at the end, and it's just for grip. So if my hand were to slip, the curve would catch it. The barong actually has a little hook there, so there's no way that thing's flying out of your hand. The Dooku saber features what I like to refer to as a double curve. Now I'm going to use some stock images here because I do not own a Dooku saber. Personally, it's not to my taste. I think that it's probably the only lightsaber that in my mind has succeeded in being uglier than a Graflex. But the Dooku saber, by design, features a double curve. So it's got a curve on the end, like that barong. It's also got a curve on the emitter, which leads it to this complete curve. Curved emitter, curved pommel. So you get this like full-on curve. The thing about the Dooku saber, and I'll mention it later when we talk about use, but you'll notice that Christopher Lee almost always grips that thing very low towards the middle or towards the back, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But beyond the double curved saber, there's a single curved saber, or a regular curved saber. Now this is the most common that you find in the actual lightsaber market. Some people have even retooled the Dooku saber to be more like this. But this is made from ASP parts from Saberforge. Saberforge has a couple stock models like the Bane that feature a curve like this. There's a Bad Axe, which is a very popular curved hilt saber that's a lot like this. But this is the standard curve that you're going to find on a lot of curved hilt lightsabers. This one, again, is just made with interchangeable parts. And then we have a slight curve lightsaber, like this one from Bendu Armory. Now, this is their Obsidian model, and you see that it's straight for the most part, except it's slightly curved at the end. All right, so we've got those three models. Let me talk a little bit about where that curve comes from. But first off, I want to acknowledge that a lot of people don't realize how much of a mensch Christopher Lee really was. So when you get Christopher Lee in a movie and you're designing a lightsaber for him, you've probably heard about the things that they went through to design Samuel L. Jackson's lightsaber. Well, Christopher Lee's lightsaber had a lot of work in it as well. He was a very accomplished swordsman. He had probably done more on-screen sword combat than pretty much anybody that ever had in Star Wars before. He's basically the pattern or the model for the character of James Bond. So I'll say it again: Christopher Lee was a mensch. He also was in a metal band, which is very cool. But so Christopher Lee's sword, or lightsaber rather, was designed to look elegant and to be a primarily one-handed weapon. So if you're looking at a standard saber, it ends up with a straight hilt like this. This is a flight from Pock Store with a ripper blade on it. But one thing that you'll notice about a standard saber is it's great for two-handed. And if you're going to do flips and routines and all kinds of things, you can throw this around, and any way you catch it, you're good. Because it's an omnidirectional design, meaning that I could have it this way, I could have it this way, doesn't really matter because it's a straight blade. And if you're using it double-handed, this is great. You see straight handles rather like this in things like kendo, and you see this in a lot of medieval sword. The thing about it, though, is that if you know anything about fencing, Hema is a very different creature. It's medieval, historical European martial arts. But sport fencing, when they get something and they refine it to a sport, just like sport kayaks that you see in the Olympics don't look anything like kayaks, or sport canoes don't look anything like canoes, sport swords don't look anything like swords. They're designed for function, entirely for function, nothing for aesthetics, and they completely throw out a lot of historical elements. So whereas this reads like a sword and looks really nice, you get into fencing and you're going to find stuff that looks like that. Okay, now this looks more like a ray gun than it does like an actual sword. And that's all about function. So more on that in a second. So Christopher Lee, he was getting a lightsaber that was supposed to look elegant, supposed to be precise. His character, Count Dooku, has become sort of the poster child for Makashi, which is Form 2, which is designed for saber-on-saber dueling, economy of movement, and precision, which is basically like the idea behind fencing. So the curved hilt saber makes perfect sense for him. The reason behind that, again, if I've got that straight hilt saber, if I'm looking for precision, I would like to be able to just point at my opponent and have that be where my blade tip goes, just right exactly where I point. You've heard the old adage of the sword is an extension of your arm. Well, if it was an extension of my arm, it would go straight up like that. Now, to accomplish that angle on a regular hilt, I have to hold my wrist like this, and I still never get exactly straight because it's lower than my arm, and it's kind of angled up. I can sort of, it's not really doable. So that's why sport fencing sort of scrapped this regular design for other things. So a standard fencing saber like this is a French grip. And you'll notice one thing about this, it's curved. Just slightly curved. But a French grip saber is designed so that when I hold it in my hand, it makes a straight line from my arm out to the saber, or out to the sword rather, the sword tip. So if I just poke, that tip is going right straight out from my arm. All right, a lot of people don't use fencing or those French grips, which is a slightly curved grip. They go for pistol grips, which is what you're going to see much more frequently in sport fencing. Don't worry, I will get back around to Star Wars in just a second here. But pistol grips take a lot of different forms. There's 6 main forms of them. I've got a couple here. This is a Visconti grip. Now this is the one that's just like the one on that epee I just showed you. Again, it looks like a ray gun. The idea behind the Visconti grip is if I've got this thing, it fits in my hand like this, and you notice this straight line from my arm straight out. Okay, it's designed to, even more than the French grip, create that straight line straight out. Now, as weird as this looks, this concept of straight out from your arm isn't that historically inaccurate. One of the more historically accurate fencing grips out there is an Italian grip. Now, not a lot of people use these because this was a transition between the straight edge and the pistol grip. You don't hold an Italian grip like this. You hold an Italian grip like this. So it's a slight pistol grip design, but it's still designed to go straight out from your arm, even more so than the French grip. So the Italian grip had some versatility. You could choke up on it for strength, you could change your grip on it, but the primary grip on the Italian was like this for that straight out in front of you, for that finesse. So the pistol grips sort of took that to the next level, scrapped the aesthetics, and went for function. And so again, this is a Visconti grip. Looks kind of like a ray gun. This is a Belgian grip, which is a little bit straighter, but much the same thing. Okay, straight out from my arm. Right. So, again, that epee I showed you earlier is a Visconti grip. So, straight, like I'm pointing at the enemy. All right, so with Christopher Lee's emphasis on finesse and their desire to make things into a Makashi style, Star Wars wasn't quite ready to say, well, let's go with something like this, because you show this to audiences in a film, and they're going to just completely, I mean, a lot of the appeal of Star Wars is the awesome lightsabers. This looks goofy. But the Christopher Lee version, you'll notice that with that double curve, when he's holding that thing down towards the middle or towards the back, it's accomplishing that same thing. It's coming straight out of his arm, and going straight forward. Okay, that gives you better point control and better precision. So that double curve was designed for that. A lot of the choreography that they had him doing had him gripping it up by the neck, which looked kind of goofy, especially when at one point he's got two sabers. That's not exactly what that was designed for. But when you just see him standing there with that saber, it's a straight line down his arm and out to the end of the tip. All right, the regular curved sabers are designed to be able to accomplish that as well. If you grip it up here, it's a little bit awkward, but it handles just like a regular saber if you grip it towards the emitter. The only problem with this is you might bonk yourself with this, and it's also going to throw off the weight and the balance. A curved hilt saber is not designed for tosses and flips and stuff like that. You want a straight hilt saber for that. But if you're using it one-handed and you don't plan on letting go of it, then a curved hilt saber might be a decent option. Two-handed, again, gets a little bit awkward because my second hand is sort of off place unless I'm gripping it way up near the top. So it's primarily a one-handed design. And the standard curve I can grip up here, but if I grip it down here, I can get that straight line that you see in like the glamour shots of Christopher Lee. All right, straight line. All right, the slight curved saber like this Bendu Armory, this is going back more to the function of the barong. This does not give me any advantage on point control or anything like that. What it does is it gives me that grip. Okay, it gives me that grip control so that if it slides out of my hand, it stops there. Okay, you notice the Bendu Armory one even widens out to make that even more of the case. So they say that Christopher Lee's was based off of the barong. I think this one is much more similar to a barong than Christopher Lee's curved saber ever was. I think his was more similar to a fencing grip saber, which really sort of suited his character. All right, so again, this sort of slight curve, this is perfectly versatile. You can use this the same way that you would a standard straight saber without any problem. The curved hilt sabers, though, if you're going to use that, use it one-handed. Be prepared to hang on to it the entire time. But if you do get used to it, it is going to be able to offer you a better grip and better point control on your saber. If you're doing a lot of stabs or thrusts and slight movements like disengages. I love the hell out of disengages when I actually do some of this stuff. It's like I love disengages, but that's basically moving your sword out of the way of somebody else's sword so that you can then stick them. But that sort of point control, the curved hilt can offer that. Hopefully this video has been of use to you guys and answered some of those questions that some of you have had about curved hilt sabers. It's a matter of individual preference. Personally, with lightsabers, I prefer the straight hilt because I like to be able to have that omnidirectional fluidity with the saber. But if I were dueling, and I were dueling with one hand, a curved hilt does have something to offer. All right, again, hopefully this has been of use to you. If it has, join me back next time, and I'll see you then.